Okay, everybody who's watching, this is myself, Corey, and my friend Nigel Hicks, Dr. Nigel Hicks. He's a
Hey guys, how's it going?
he's a rock doctor, like a real one. He can fix rocks and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah, can't fix colds.
no, but he's watched a few of the live streams that I've done in the past, and he's recently got a telescope of his own. But I think he can do some really valuable stuff and tell us some really cool stuff about the actual craters and features and everything on the moon that we're going to look at. And yeah, just like it's not just pretty pictures. There's a lot of science going on, and you can't really beat that part of it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these features. And yeah, so you were asking me right before we went live, you asked me something about which mare did you want me to look at?
There was one that popped up when I was doing a little bit of reading before tonight. The mare Oriental.
Oriental?
Oriental with an E. Yeah, with an E on the end.
Okay, I have no idea. I'm going to look up where the hell that is. And
Yeah, I was looking on the geology map of the moon and I couldn't find it there either. But
oh,
yeah.
really? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to look for it. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself and like just from the geology standpoint, the doctor standpoint, or anything really? I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I know
So,
you're a South African World Cup, mountain bike racer as well. So you've got the jersey. I've seen
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so I'm a doctor of geology. It's not just me, though, in the family. My sister-in-law and her husband are also both doctors of geology. He is a professor at the university here in Durban. I live in Durban, South Africa. For those of you watching from the States and elsewhere in the world, I hope everyone's enjoying their lockdown. It's getting a bit boring down this side, so it's cool that Corey's got me on here to come and chat to you guys. So thanks, Corey. And hopefully we'll get some tips as well, because as Corey says, I'm new to all of this. So yeah, don't expect anything major.
I got big expectations, man.
No, because I'm actually a sedimentologist, so I work a lot with sedimentary rocks, but a lot of really old stuff. So I've did my honours and my masters in some really, really old rocks here in South Africa, in the Barberton Greenstone Belt, and then in the Pongola supergroup. The rocks there are like 3 billion years old for the Pongola and 3.5 billion years old for Barberton. So Barberton's some of the oldest rocks on Earth, and some of the stuff we're looking at here, the craters and that sort of thing, is around that sort of age as well. So you would have had similar sort of styles of impact and everything on Earth at that period as well. So it's really interesting. We can have a chat about some of that sort of stuff, and maybe I can pinch Corey's screen and show some stuff that we actually have around the world. So yeah.
So are you saying that basically when we're looking at the moon, and I think I know this, but I'm going to ask to make sure, we're actually looking at basically kind of the way the Earth formed in the same way, but at the same time. So, if Earth didn't have, the mountains and say the grass and the water and all the stuff in the atmosphere that we have, would it look, underneath all that, would it look kind of like the moon?
So the only difference between the two is obviously that the Earth has plate tectonics, and that is the main thing that keeps the Earth going as it is and sustaining life. So for those of you who didn't do geography at school, plate tectonics, it's basically a big conveyor belt of the crust itself, and the crust gets recycled. And that's why you don't see a lot of really, really old rocks on Earth. It's very, very seldom that you find really old stuff, because everything just gets recycled through subduction zones on the edges of the continents. So a lot of the stuff is really, really young. that we have on Earth. Whereas when you look at the moon, that's 3,500 million years old. The moon formed around 3,900 million years ago, and because there's been no recycling of the crust, it's pretty much as it was from back then. So you're seeing very, very old rocks that are on the moon. So
okay, yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of people don't think about that like, this stuff, the moon formed not long after the Earth, or at the same time, basically, so.
Well, the Earth started forming around 4,500 million years ago, and then so basically when the planet had started accreting, so if you think of when everything was forming, you would have had all of this dust and debris and everything that now has a little bit of density and a little bit of gravity starts coalescing, and the Earth coalesced to quite a size, but then was impacted, or so the theory is. It was impacted by another object that some say was almost the size of Mars, and that then obviously smashed the proto-Earth in two and helped form the moon itself. And that's why, as far as I know, the moon also has a nickel iron core as well, but it just doesn't obviously have the same intensity as ours. I must just have a look up in one of my books about that. But yeah, so that's how that would have all formed, and it would have happened really early on. So we don't see a lot of that material still around on Earth now because it's all been recycled out. Let's actually see how old the old stuff is that we find in Greenland.
Okay. The stuff that we're looking at the moon right now, I've got it on one of the more famous craters. The one right here in the middle where the mouse cursor is pointing. That's Plato. So it's very, very. I don't know. A lot of people, know what it is or know of it, and they see the moon because you can actually see. Let's see how well we can see. So I've got a bigger view. Yeah. So this is the whole moon through my little finder scope, and Plato is right here. So you can see it almost naked eye. It's a big crater on a kind of out by itself, and Plato, I'm just going to look stuff up on Wikipedia because that's what I do. I'm not like, I'm not a moon expert by any means. I just take, a lot of photos of these things and do imaging of it. And Plato is like most of the the craters that we like to look at. It's about 100 kilometers wide, and it's got an age of 3.8 billion years. So. Yeah. Right there. I mean, that's flippin' old,
Yeah.
How does that rate to the Earth then?
Good old Wikipedia has also come up with the oldest rocks on Earth are in between 3.7 and 3.8 billion years old. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So what you're seeing there is there's only one place really on Earth that you'd see stuff that's that old.
Which is?
Greenland.
In Greenland. What you were just talking about. Okay. Yeah.
The Isua Greenstone Belt in Greenland.
Okay. Interesting thing about Plato too. This it looks flat. It looks like it's just like a big flat area, right? But it's actually depressed down, or rather, the rim is about 2 kilometers tall. So I talked about it briefly during the last live stream I did when we were looking at some craters, and I mentioned, so there's a place here in South Africa in the Drakensberg Mountains, and it's got the second highest waterfall in the world. I slept in a tent there twice, right about 10 meters from the edge of a 1 kilometer drop. So if I thought about that and think that this rim is double that height, and I remember sitting there with my legs dangling over, looking down like a kilometer down, and I'm just freaked out, and I can't imagine, what these moon craters are like. But I should probably, let's see what else. So can you talk about like why it's so flat? I know it's like a lot of lava and stuff, but you know, like, is that basically all it is, or why is it so flat on the bottom?
Well, like you've just said, it's actually not flat. It's really, really mountainous. So, I mean, if you've got a 2 kilometer depression, a lot of the mountain ranges around the world are 2 k's high.
Yeah.
The Alps go up to 3,500 meters or so, if I remember correctly, somewhere around there, maybe 4,000 as at the tippy tops. So a lot of the stuff that you're looking at here on the moon, although it looks flat from our perspective, there's some serious mountains that are still preserved there.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, the mare themselves look very flat, but that's again just because of the composition of the rocks. So there's two main compositions that you have on the moon, and those actually define the colors that you see on the moon itself.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What about the surface
volcanic.
of the bottom? So what about the surface of the bottom of this crater? Like how flat is that? I mean, it looks perfectly flat on the floor of this crater, except for a few smaller craters that are in there. But like,
yeah. I mean, you'd have to do some proper imaging of it, but most likely, as you would find with most of the big impact structures, you have a resurgent sort of dome in the middle.
yeah.
I'm sure there's one or two of the craters, if you went to Tycho or something like that, you'd be able to see the dome in the center of the crater that like rebounds back up after the impact.
Yeah.
So most of the have that sort of thing, and those are a good couple of 100 meters high in most instances. So it's not like deadpan flat like you'd see there, unless it's been covered up with moon dust or something like that. But again, yeah, it would have to be imaged to see. I'm sure someone's done that.
No, it is super flat, but so the flat on Wikipedia now, according to this, basically says it's flat. And where was it saying? It said, it's a lava-filled lunar impact crater. So since it's 3.8 billion years old, was the moon even solid when that crater impacted?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. So at that point in time, the moon would have formed it would have been solid. But around 3.8 billion years ago, you had what was known as the late heavy bombardment. Now, this occurred on most of the planets, and basically what it is it was the sort of final stage of all of the asteroid junk, all of the material that was just around in the solar system, just being drawn in by the planets because of their density and because of their gravity. And you had huge impacts on all of the planets. And that's why the moon shows so much of this sort of stuff. And they're really, really big. Most of the mare themselves are actually supposedly like impact craters themselves that have been filled in. So I read.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's like nuts.
Yeah.
But now
that's crazy.
In most of these instances, like you would have had an impact, and then the impact itself would probably remelt the rock itself. So you then have a remelt, and then you have new volcanic material that is then erupted onto the surface.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to switch filters to the red filter on this, just because I want to get a bit of a sharper view. One of the things that I do when I image is, especially because with this particular camera, I use a monochrome camera, so I could do color imaging of the moon, but I tend not to. With this camera, I'll use a normal mirrorless or DSLR camera for color stuff, just because it's a lot of work to do color, and it's just nice and sharp to get these features in monochrome. So I'm on the red filter now, and red is usually one of the sharpest colors when you're doing imaging. And yeah, so right over here next to Plato is what they call the Alpine Valley, or the Valles Alpes.
The Valles Alps.
Yeah. And I don't remember the width of this, but it's not very wide. Last time we did this live stream, there's a channel in there, and it's got a fancy Latin name, but I forgot what it is. But it's a channel that's only 600 meters wide, and apparently it's really hard to see. We could almost see it last time. I don't think we'll be able to see it this time. It's not as steady. The atmosphere isn't as steady, but we actually caught it, and there's an image on my Twitter feed and my Instagram feed of that we were able to image.
Yeah, that looked pretty cool.
You know, it's one of those difficult to shoot things, you know, that a lot of people, I guess, I don't know, try and shoot. I didn't even know that until I looked it up, because somebody said, "Oh, hey, it's the Valles Alps," and I was like, "What's that?" And so I look it up, and they're like, "Oh, hey, there's a really difficult thing to image. Let's check it out." So I did, and it worked out pretty nicely. So I'm actually going to shoot an image of this, and I'm going to shoot 5,000 frames of video with this camera, and I'm shooting at an exposure length of about 5 milliseconds. So that means I'll be able to shoot, with this camera's limit, I can shoot about 180 frames per second. And basically what you do when you image this stuff is you just take lots and lots of video frames, and then you put it into software that finds the sharpest frames and averages them on top of each other. And basically then you can go ahead and sharpen that, because it's a lot smoother, less noisy, and you can make it look really nice in post-processing. So I'm going to go ahead and take about 5,000 frames of red right now and hope that the focus is okay. And then I'll quickly process that image after this live stream and throw it up on Twitter. But it's pretty cool. I mean, you've done a few moonshots with yours, or have you only done planets so far with your telescope?
No, I've done a couple of little moonshots, but I mean, obviously I'm still puzzling through everything, and I'm trying to do it all with my cell phone.
Yeah, so. But it works great with your cell phone. I mean, there's a lot of people who, think that you need all this specialized equipment, and yeah, it helps for the, if you want to get that next best image, sure, but the thing is, it's not required. There's a guy in Johannesburg here who uses his cell phone exclusively, and it's really good. So let's see if I've got any questions on the Twitter.
Yeah, I must say, it's amazing where the technology of cell phones have come to nowadays. That if you are just a noob like me, it's really easy to be able to get some cool stuff that it's definitely not professional, but it's...
Yeah, but you can share it. You can show people what you've seen, and it's cool. I
mean, to be able to stack some stuff just off video footage from your phone, and it actually comes out quite nicely, it's really cool.
Yeah. On Twitter, we actually had a couple of questions that I'll ask you. I don't know if you've already answered it, but that's fine if we repeat. UFO Seekers, says, what kind of rock is the moon mostly made from?
So there's two different types of rock. It's both volcanic. There's the majority of the moon is made up of a rock called anorthosite. So it's predominantly made up of a mineral called plagioclase, which is quite white in color. Okay. And then the other rock type is basalt, and that makes up the dark mare. So we'll have a little chat about that a little bit later on, because that's probably the most interesting side of, the moon itself, as to how all of this stuff is formed.
Yeah.
But basically, for those of you who are in South Africa, anorthosite you find in the Bushveld igneous complex near Dwas River. It's really, really white in color. And then for the guys who are tuning in from the States, if you think of the Stillwater mine, the Stillwater igneous complex in the States, this is really interesting. NASA actually, they take rock samples of anorthosite from the Stillwater mine to help create man-made moon dirt.
Man-made moon dirt?
Yes, so they can test all of their, so that JPL and all those guys can test all of their equipment for missions and that sort of stuff. It is the closest we can get to recreating the rock and dirt and dust from the moon, especially for the guys in the States, is to go to this mine in Stillwater, which is where is Stillwater? Aren't you from the States? You should know.
Stillwater, Oklahoma?
MT. Where's MT?
Montana.
Montana.
Yeah. See, the thing is, when you say, like, Stillwater, I think there's probably 20 Stillwaters in the States. I'm trying to do, like, 3 things at once, and you're throwing geography at me now. Oh, man. That's rough.
Yeah. So most of the, why the moon comes up so bright, especially when you've got like full moon, is because it's the pelagic glaze minerals in the anorthosite that are reflecting the sunlight.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And it's then again the contrast where basalt is black, like pretty much as black as my jacket, and that obviously absorbs all of the sunlight. So you have this really big contrast between the more rugged anorthosite mountain ranges, and then these big valleys that, like you said, with Plato, it's filled with lava, and that's what forms the mare, and that's why they were obviously initially thought of as being seas, just because of the color variation.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, you talked about the reflectivity, and it seems bright, but the thing is, it's really not. It only reflects back about 12% of the light that hits it. But it's like 12%. I mean, think of a mirror being 100%, right? Like, imagine if it was a mirror, we'd have a second sun. So full moon is 12% as bright, or no, well, it reflects 12% of the sunlight that hits it back toward us. So. I'm glad that's all it is, because otherwise it'd be constant daylight almost. This crater we're looking at now, it's pretty flat looking. It's not flat, but it's because of the phase of the moon right now. This is Copernicus, which is yet another famous-ish type of crater. And this one, guess what? The diameter of this one again is based on the rest. It's right around 100 kilometers. It's 93 kilometers. I actually had I don't remember if it's this one or if it's a different one. I've gotten a few really good images of this one because it's very interesting at certain phases. There's two of those. You can sort of see them here, of those central features. Yeah. Where it hits so hard that it pops up or whatever in the middle.
Yeah, the rebound dome basically.
Right. There's these things, and they're very uniquely shaped. But there's the mountainous rim, and then there's mountains on the inside. So it's surrounded by mountains with other mountains. And this one's almost 4 kilometers deep. So these things, I mean, that's really deep. That's down in there,
Well, that's the thing, is that I think when I joined in your last stream, one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
Let's check this out. Rocky Mountains.
Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. So the Rocky Mountains, the range's highest peak is Mount Elbert in Colorado at 4,401 meters.
Okay.
So that's 4.4 Ks.
So the largest one is just taller than the edge of this crater.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you sit on the edge of that crater, if you were a NASA astronaut, you went and sat there, you would be looking from the top of the Rocky Mountains down to the base of the Rocky Mountains, down to sea level.
And
that's nuts.
That is nuts. Well, and the thing, and you can see the edge on the mouse pointer. You can see the edge of this crater. Also, I mean, it's not like straight down type of thing. This goes over. So I'm guessing this would almost be like foothills, because this is about 20 kilometers, maybe 25 kilometers from this top, say, edge to the bottom, to the floor. So like, that's far, that's like almost like driving through foothills of a mountain. So it's not like a steep edge like Copernicus looked, or not Copernicus, Plato. So it's a lot different. But I've got a new camera thing I'm pretty stoked about. The old laptop that I use for my imaging computer. So I've got this all running on a computer now. I'm in my study, my office where I work all day long. I've actually got the telescope outside, and I can see it with my eye, but I can also see it on the camera of the laptop. So I've got that thing running, so I can monitor the telescope and look at it, and then monitor what's going on with the telescope. So I've been kind of playing around with new stuff, trying to make the stream more interesting and things to show people. But so I don't know much more about Copernicus other than those things. But maybe can we talk about these? I think, is it called stria or is it something else? These lines that come out.
The ejector lines.
Okay, yeah. What is that? Just from stuff getting thrown out?
I would presume so. Yeah. I mean, if you think that these things are making craters 4Ks deep.
Yeah.
There's going to be a really large amount of material that's going to be ejected out of that. And to be honest, I don't know why it creates such sort of straight lines. I mean, it's really amazing to see them on Tycho, and you can see them with your binoculars even.
Yeah.
You don't even need to have a telescope to see that stuff.
It's insane.
It's quite amazing. So, but yeah, so most of that stuff would just be the ejector material that from impact has just been totally vaporized and just blown out from the crater.
I mean, this goes hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away, because if this thing is 100 kilometers wide, I mean, this is just, I can't imagine the size of these impacts and you wouldn't want to be there. I'm tightening the focus up a little bit because I want to do an image of this, because those ejecta lines are really cool. Let's then recenter this thing and move it over in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to take 5,000 frames again of that. And one thing, so this is a hot tip. I see so many people, and it's bugging me lately. I don't know why. I see so many people overexposing their moonshots. They're making it so it's as bright as you see it with your eye, but the thing is, the moon is so bright that it's actually overexposing, and our eyes see more light than you really should. Like, it's so when you look at the histogram on a camera or on an image, if you see the mountain of light further on the right side, that means you're overexposing if it's pushed off to that right side. And so I see people taking moon photos, and they're super, super bright, and then they're losing a lot of detail around these craters, like these edges and stuff. They get blown out in people's photos so often. So my biggest, I suppose, tip right now for anybody who's taking photos of the moon is to drop it back down and shoot quite a bit lower than what you think it should be. You can always brighten it up, because the moon is so bright that that you can shoot at a very low gain and a very low ISO on your camera. So shoot less, shoot not as bright, and underexpose your image rather, because then you can have a much better final product. And you can get these, because you'll lose these ejecta lines, you'll lose the edges of the craters. So like what I'm going to show you an example. So like this, you'll be like, oh, I want it to look like that, or sorry, like that, right? But the thing is, these edges of these craters, you've just blown out the edges. So there's a lot of pixels in there that you're never going to recover because it's fully white. Also with the edge of this crater, like here, 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 all of these brighter ones you've just lost. So rather underexpose and get a lot more detail, and then you can push up the levels in post-processing. I'm actually going to take one more image of this because I had to adjust it mid-photo and it wasn't great. Okay. Crazy thing is, these files that I shoot with are huge. This is going to be a 10 gigabyte video in about 30 seconds. So it's like it just shoves it onto there.
Yeah, I tried one the other day, and like it just destroyed all of my computer's hard drive space.
Yeah,
like,
no, it's gone. I shoot.
Have run out.
Yeah. When I shoot planets, I shoot like somewhere around 150 gigabytes a night. So, I mean, I have to go and put that somewhere. So I process it, and then I'll try and save everything I can. But it's just so much. It's too much. So, okay, cool. Well, there's that. Whoa, come back.
Well, whilst you're busy with that, there's a crater just next to Copernicus, Eratosthenes.
Yeah, Aristophanes. That one is awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that one.
Because from the, for those of you listening as well, there's a pretty cool thing that I found online. I think it was designed by the USGS actually. But there's the geological map of the near side of the moon that you can just get off the internet, and it's a massive, really cool picture that if you're into looking at the moon and craters, you can download it and then print it out if you want. But yeah, I'm busy looking at that to try and find some cool stuff.
So we can see it down here. It's so bright, that particular crater. It's like, it's the one that's super bright and small and has the little thingies on it. I'm super scientific, aren't I? Oh, this is hilarious. But it's this thing. You can see this little feature. And interesting thing about that, when you photograph it in color, it's actually got blue. There's a bluish tint to it. I don't know if that means it has like titanium or something. I don't know, I'm making stuff up now. Does it have adamantium in it? Unobtainium. Let's see, I think that should do it right there. So I've got it centered on there. This is much easier to do, then I don't have to hunt around forever trying to figure stuff out. Haha, look at that, right on. Oh, that looks cool, man. Look at these like crack channel things. Oh man, I'm so scientific.
No, so from the geological map, because the moon itself doesn't actually have a lot of different rock types, what the guys have done here is they've put together basically a geomorphological map. So it shows you where the mountainous areas are and then where the flat plains and that sort of thing are. So I think what you're seeing there from what I'm looking at here is just a mountainous area.
Yeah. No, this is in a mare, I think. In one of the mare. This is in Oceanus Procellarum, which is next to Rima Marius.
Is that the one that's right next to Copernicus?
Oh no, sorry, I picked the wrong one. I'm rather looking at, this is different. This is Aristarchus. Whoops, sorry. I'm trying to confuse everyone. You want to look at Aristophanes, which is right at the tip.
No, we'll just stay on that one now. Let me just find it. There we go.
Yeah, we'll go to Aristophanes later because that's also interesting because it's at the tip of the mountain range. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This one is Aristarchus. Yeah. See, this is why.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, Aristarchus is awesome. I'm gonna do some googling on that. Aristarchus crater. Yeah. This is
So those lines that you mentioned just off to the left of the image,
Yeah.
to the left of Aristarchus, those come up as distinctive materials, as planes. That's what they say on the main map, on the
Oh wow, really?
geological map. Yeah. So, but they do look sort of like a
Like a
topographical feature
Yeah.
in comparison to the planes around.
Yeah, it's crazy weird. I mean, in this, so this is, if I remember right, it's like the brightest. Yeah, it's nearly the albedo of that, the brightness, the reflectivity of that is almost. It says nearly double of most other lunar features.
So what you'll probably find in that instance there is the mare itself around. Okay, so all of the very dark area around, that's all basalt. Now the basalt itself would have come out as sort of flood basalts. So I'll see if I can do a little thing through the camera here. So basically, you would have had the moon's surface like that, like the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would have had eruptions coming in from underneath really early on in the moon's history. Would have then come up, and so the book itself would be your anorthosites, the white coloured rocks that you'd see in the mountain ranges. And then you have these sort of slightly later stage eruptions that would have happened around 3,100 million years ago, I think. I must just double check. But that's this dark material that then comes out as basalt, and it just layers on top. So it just creates this big layer like I've now put my phone on.
Okay.
So if you then impact into that, if you have a big enough impact, you can go through the basalt layer into the anorthosites underneath, and that then comes back up. And that's probably what you're seeing there, is that you've gone through the flood basalts into the underlying anorthosite volcanics, and that's why it's got such a contrast.
Okay.
I mean, I'm guessing, but that's what you would think of.
Now let's see. Yes, this is true. Here's my large telescope. Also, Wikipedia says this feature is bright enough to be visible by the naked eye and displays unusually bright features when viewed through a large telescope, like this one on the screen. It's readily identified when most of the lunar surface is illuminated by Earthshine, which is interesting to note that. So when we look at the moon, and like during a full moon, it's really hard to identify anything except for the mare. You can see those large basalt regions, like what you said, because they're dark and their reflectivity is so much less than everything else. But when the moon is full, it's hard to see craters. It's hard to see a lot of the stuff just because it's so bright and it's just blowing out everything, and there's no edge detail. There's no shadows to show you anything. But this feature, apparently, just because of where it is and because its reflectivity is so high, it's actually easy to see during a full moon, which is interesting. It's deeper than the Grand Canyon, which sounds really cool, but it's about the same depth as Copernicus. So it's 3.7 kilometers deep, which is pretty deep, for that little thing. It's only about 40 kilometers wide. So it's
for a small crater, for a smallish small
yeah,
it's quite deep.
It's tiny. It's only 40 kilometers wide. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, think about that. It's 10 times wider than it is deep. So a depth of 1/10. That seems like, I don't know. It sounds pretty interesting, at least. While we were chatting, I just did a sneaky photo. We'll see if it turns out.
So seeing as we're talking about like the widths and depths of craters on the moon, we may as well also just put it into perspective into what you find on Earth. So so if you think of the Chicxulub crater in Mexico, the one that supposedly took out the dinosaurs, 65 million years ago. That has a diameter of 150 kilometers. So that's generally around the same sort of
big, like we notice it type of thing. Yeah,
the ones that you see, some of the big jobs that we've already been looking at. But in general, a lot of the big craters that come up when you do a normal Wikipedia search are generally around 40 kilometers to 20 kilometers in width that are still preserved on Earth. So they're really not big in comparison to what you're seeing on the moon.
Yeah. Okay. So there's not how many? I mean, that we know of, that we found or that we've identified. How many of those larger craters of the 100 kilometers are there on Earth? Is there only a few, or is there like that we know of?
Well, good old Wikipedia has 5.
5? Only 5. Okay.
Yeah. With the largest being the Vredefort impact structure here in South Africa, just south of Johannesburg. That has a diameter of 300 kilometers. It's the largest and oldest known impact crater on Earth. And again, the reason why it's the oldest is because this impact occurred on very, very old rocks that are 3,000 million years old, and it's just quite by chance that they've been preserved. So, and it's really interesting. Like you can actually see the Vredefort impact structure if you look at Google Earth on the satellite images and that sort of thing. You can actually see the ring structure being the edge of the crater being made up by a really, really high mountain. Not really high in comparison to what you're seeing on the moon, but like a decent mountain range, just arcing around the northern side of the crater rim itself.
Oh wow! Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. I'm ignoring questions. Not ignoring, but I'm missing them. Let's see. Tanya, my wife, asks, are there any new recent noteworthy craters? This one is, I don't think it's very old. It doesn't say the age on here, though. I don't remember. I need to find this out. There are a few ones that are, I don't know about how recent. I don't know what recent means. Oh, yeah, it is. It's very young. This one's only 450 million years old. This is like a baby. Yeah, I thought this one was young from the other stuff that times I've looked it up. So, I don't know. Are there, there's impacts all the time. They still happen on the moon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
But nothing at a level that would create the craters that we see on the moon that we can image.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
If I remember correctly, you were saying that Tycho is also quite young.
Well, yeah, we'll have to look for it later.
Youngish.
And see. Yeah. In those, hundreds of millions of years, maybe instead of billions, right?
Yeah.
Let me look here. What else have we got? Oh, right. So somebody asked this, and I can answer this as probably a no, but I don't know the answer for sure. Somebody asked. So there was actually an impact last year during the total eclipse that was visible in North America and some of those areas. So it was very interesting. I was there visiting at the time, and I couldn't see it because of clouds, but there was actually a lunar impact while millions of people were watching, because there was live streams, happening like this, of the moon during a total lunar eclipse, and all of a sudden, bright flash on the moon, and people are like, "Whoa, what was that?" And all of a sudden, so then they're like, "Okay, maybe it was a camera artifact. We gotta chill out and try and make sure that it's actually something." Turns out it was, because millions of people saw this flash through different cameras all at the same time, and it was a meteor impact. I doubt we can actually see that one. I have no idea how big of a crater that makes. Maybe it's, I don't know, one of these small ones. I have no idea. I'm curious as well. So that'd be something, if somebody wants to look it up and Google it, I'd be interested. Maybe we'll look at that sometime. Let's see. So you wanted to look, let's go to Aristophanes, because I totally screwed that one up. So I feel bad about that now. No, we need to go this way. Back up to Copernicus. We're going to take a left at Copernicus. And then, yeah, so Aristophanes is going to be right around here, if I remember right, which is not that way, it's actually that way. Let me make this a little faster. There. Whew. Much better. Okay, so are we going to be on it? That's the question. How good was my aiming? Nope. Nope, I screwed it up. Where was this thing? Maybe it was over here. I don't remember. Or it was around there. I don't know. Let's find it. Let's look around on the moon. It's more fun. Okay, so there's Copernicus. And if we go...
It's northeast. It's northeast of Copernicus. So whichever way your telescope works, and which way it's mirrored.
I don't. Oh, there's Aristarchus again. I don't even know. I would have to. I bet it's down here. I'll bet you. No. Oh, fail. It's fine. See, looking around is still. It's still. Look at this. I swear I see color, but I know I don't because it's a monochrome camera, so I can't. Wait a minute. To the left. Oops. Other way. Nope. This is funny. Watch me fail. I was looking at it before. Go the other way. No, dude. Wrong way. I'm clicking the... Here, you'll watch this. This will be funny. Let's go. Is this right? No. Let's go back this way. Okay. So there's Copernicus down there. And
should be right next to Copernicus.
Yeah, that's why I feel really stupid at the moment. Unless it's not, maybe it's not, it's probably, yeah, I'm sure it's really flat, so that's maybe why it's not very notable. Unless that is Aristarchus. I may have that's Aristarchus there. Okay, so it's actually over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be very fun to look at, so we can...
well.
No, it's fine. Gee, can we even see it?
It looked cool from the map because it has another crater within the rebound structure. So which is pretty cool. That was all.
Yeah.
We'll find something else.
No, it's fine. I'm curious now. It's going to be down here. It's going to be up and around. Maybe it's up on the other side. Is it just flat?
It should be just to the so that very bright line that you've got in the image there. Yeah. So that mountainous range. It's in the just below the center of the image now.
Okay. All right. We'll see. That's Copernicus.
No. So it's to the right of Copernicus as you were looking at it. To the right and just up of Copernicus.
Oh, okay. So it's up here somewhere.
Yes. Right next to where your cursor was. You'll see the dark edge on the...
So it's here?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, see, that's why I'm actually looking for a real, decent crater, and it's not even worth looking. Okay, so basically what we're looking at now is... This is what happens when the moon is, fullish. There's a really cool crater right here, but we just can't see it. Because there's not a whole lot going on when it's almost straight on with the sun. Eratosthenes. It's
Eratosthenes.
Yeah, Eratosthenes. Yeah, Erato. See, these live streams are becoming funny because it's basically me
learning Greek.
It's me trying to pronounce stuff that I cannot pronounce. Oh, it's funny. Crater. I'm gonna look up some details on this one. Okay, so yeah, it does. I wish we could see it because it would be cool. Maybe I'm gonna zoom in and see if like we can just see some edges, but we're not gonna spend too much time on here because. Yeah, I mean you can kind of see the center stuff a little bit, but where's my? I need to find my. Oh no. There it is. Okay. I'd lost my controller. Let's see. Let's go back over to it. Let's put it in the middle. So you were talking about the center stuff that happened.
Yeah.
So we can kind of see it here. Just barely.
Yeah. Yeah, what a pity.
Yeah. That's no fun. But yeah, that would be cool. And this one's only 60, so this one's only 60 kilometers, but it's got a really interesting. We'll look at it again when there's more contrast on those areas. So let's see. I know we had another. Let's move around. Tycho's gonna be. I'm curious if we can even see Tycho. Because it's going to be in the very illuminated area. Let's go over there, and that's there. We'll be able to see it. We can see it here. So there's Tycho. Let's go check it out and see what Tycho looks like when it's super illuminated. So that's closer, much closer to the limb. And I mean, you can look at it from here because we won't be able to see on the close-up view. But look at this ejecta, how far. I mean, it goes halfway across the moon. You know, on these, there's like, look at this line, all the way, just crazy big. So Tycho must have been just a massive impact. How much time do you have? I don't want to take all your time, so.
No, I've got all night.
Okay, so, cool. Yeah, it's not like you can go anywhere, I guess. So.
No, other than outside to look at a meteor shower.
Yeah. Hey, look at that! I nailed it. There's Tycho. You can actually see stuff. It's actually under our video right now, so I need to move it up. But there we go, right above there. So this is Tycho, the famous crater.
Now that's a really nice image. You can see the rebound structure in the center of Tycho so nicely there.
Yeah, well, and it's like I said before, it's actually overexposed. We could see it even better if we expose it properly, because the histogram was really blown out there. There's these, like, what are those called when they're stepped? Like they're just stepped edges of the crater. We've got that. Mm-hmm. Does that have a name? It's got to.
No, I'm not sure.
I'm putting you on the spot as the land formation guy. Yeah, I'm going to take an image of this. I'm actually going to underexpose it some more because there's going to be quite a bit of contrast on these ejecta lines. So what I'll do is I'll take this image and then I will boost the contrast in the midtones, and those things will just pop. It'll be really cool to see the image when this finishes. Let's see, so I'm going to make sure that's nice and in the middle. And I'm going to do 5,000 frames. I'm just going to assume that the focus is good. That's actually bad. I shouldn't do that. I'm gonna make sure. So I'm gonna adjust focus. I've got a remote robotic focuser on this telescope, which really, really, really helps. I swear I talk about it every time I live stream, but it's like, other than the telescope and the camera, it's like the single best thing to use because you don't have to touch the scope, which makes it wiggle. There we go, that's probably about as good as we're going to get. In order to get that thing, nailed in focus, as good as it can be. So if you ever decide to get serious about imaging, that's, really what what really helps is that a motorized focuser. Or just, it doesn't even have to be like a remote focuser like this. It can be just one. They make servo focusers that it's a little knob, that goes off. So it's, as long as you don't have to touch the telescope to focus, that's the biggest thing. Because as soon as you touch that, this image just wiggles so much, and you can see, like, if there's a little gust of wind, even if it's small, there's quite a bit of vibration, and the whole image just, it's crazy. Especially at these focal lengths, because this is a focal length of 2,304 millimeters on this telescope, and when I image planets, I'm shooting at 5,760 or so. So basically, just imagine the smallest vibration, and you're just screwed. So
would something like that work on one of the cheaper telescopes?
The motorized focuser?
You have to have a fancy, if you've got a cheapish motorized one, or do you have to have a fancy job like you've got?
No, you really don't need, because all it is, there's a lot of smaller aftermarket. So mine's made by a company in Italy called Prima Luce Lab. This is the Sesto Senso. It's a robotic focuser, but the way they market it is, and they've got all kinds of adapters. They say it can fit on any telescope, and so that's like their whole thing. And there's other companies that do other ones, and this one is specifically computer controlled. So if you're going to do more computer controlled stuff, this is more the way to go. And there's a few other ones. But I think there's I don't remember the brands all off the top of my head. There's Moonlight, I think, makes some nice ones, like off telescope focusers, but I need to look that up. But there's lots of them. It's really just, all it is a small motor that moves it in increments that your hands can't do. So it's pretty cool. But let's look up Tycho. I think it's actually pronounced Tycho. Because, isn't it Tycho Brahe? And that's how you pronounce his name. So, maybe it is Tycho. I don't know. I need to figure it out. I always say it wrong. Let's see. This guy is, besides fading away, it's 86 kilometers. So, right around that, within 20 kilometers or so of the magic 100 kilometer. But this one's deep, man. And it's funny because it's face on, it's reflecting that light straight on, but this is almost 5 kilometers deep. So this is 4.8 kilometers deep.
So that's deeper than the Rockies.
Yeah, a lot. So imagine, mountains so what did you say the Rockies were? Did you say 3,000? No.
4,400.
So 4.4, yeah. So this is 4.8. So the tallest peaks in the Rockies all the way around. This 86 kilometer thing. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. I love this one though. Everybody loves this one. It's only, oh wow, this one is super young. You were talking about that, right? 108 million. That's yesterday, I mean, jeez. All of a sudden the atmosphere seemed to settle down nicely. We're getting some pretty cool images. Let's actually, we can look at the center stuff in Tycho, because it's got a nice center area. There. So it's got those center highlands as well. This image is,
so you say 108 million years.
108 million is what Wikipedia says. Yes.
Yeah. So that impacted during the time that the dinosaurs were running around on Earth.
Imagine. I mean, and we saw those lines, those ejection lines. How big those were. So I would guess that what you saw was a pretty insanely big thing if you were on Earth and looking at the moon at the time? Like, it makes me wonder if you saw this big mushroom type of rock below. Insane.
You'll probably find something like that would have been a similar thing as to the one in Chicxulub that wiped out the dinosaurs.
So any dinosaurs that were living on the moon at the time, they're gone.
Oh no, they're done.
If they could breathe, if only. Yeah. Oh man, this is cool. Overlap. It's just so many. There's some of these areas that are just full of craters too.
But what's really interesting there, that's actually a really nice image that you had. That one there.
Yeah.
Just on the edge of the crater rim, you can see a sort of dark ring. So so that's a zone of ejecta, supposedly from the moon map. They actually show a perfect ring structure around Tycho, and then that itself has then obviously been impacted by a number of other different little meteorites to create those other little craters.
These little things all the way around it.
Yeah.
So this is ejecta as well, the dark.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh wow! So it's not just the light stuff, because we see everybody looks at these light lines that go around, that go all the way out, but the dark is just. Oh wow!
Yeah.
Would that be a basalt then, because it's dark?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll probably find that it would have gone through a layer of basalt or something, and that's what you're seeing there. So.
Okay.
But this is this area around Tycho is like really, really interesting because it's got so many craters.
Yeah.
You compare this to the mare. Like the mare is so flat because those are just like perfect sort of. When I say new, I mean we're talking still 3,100 million years.
Yeah.
But it's much newer than the material that you're focusing on here. You look at all of those craters there; that's just insane.
Yeah.
So that's really old crust that has just been impacted on and impacted on and impacted on. So.
Well, and apparently the other side, the far side of the moon from Earth is. Quite a bit more. I don't remember. We've got the orbiter that went around and took for the first time, images of the far side, and it's just way more bombarded with craters than. Let's see, where was that? I don't have to look at the Terminator. So the different areas of the moon. If people are watching and if you're not familiar with a lot of the imaging. And the things, if you're not a moon nerd or a space nerd necessarily, I think everybody is in a little way. There's the main areas are the terminator and the limb, and for imaging purposes, at least that's what they matter to me. So the terminator is where all the cool stuff happens. The terminator is the area where the light falls off and you get the best shadows of the entire. The whole moon area, so you'll get a lot of contrast. The sunlight will be coming at an angle, and it'll make really nice shapes that will be very photographable rather. And when you get on the edge of the limb, on this side where the sun is hitting, it flattens everything out. It's like they say for a photographer, you'll have your golden hours in the morning and in the evening. Same goes for like the moon is like this is the golden period of photography for the moon is on this edge because you get a lot of contrast and a lot of you can actually see what these things look like. But as soon as we get full, this will just be like this flat gray and white boring spot, which we can easily see if we go to the terminator or to the limb side. Which is also a really cool view, I think, of the moon, just because it kind of looks like it gives you this coming in for a landing vibe. But these really bright. Usually, what I was reading about is when they're really bright, that means they're younger. So you'll have these younger, bright impacts as well, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
So that. Why they say they're younger is because those are going into these sort of zones of more basaltic material, and those impacts are then impacted into the basalt, which are younger than the lighter coloured anorthosites, which would have initially formed the moon's surface.
Okay.
But I mean, they still, in the grand scheme of things, as far as I understand it, like most of the impact occurred in that early window, in and around the late heavy bombardment, which would have created the major impact to create the mare. Like the image that you've got on the screen now. I mean, that shows really, really nicely, especially in the top left of the moon. There's big circular structures in the mare. So those are supposedly big impact structures that have now been filled in.
Okay.
And then you would have had all of this extra material just impacting in, and now you're still getting impacts, but way less than what you would have had back in the early periods of moon.
Yeah, I mean, and I like, people don't like to necessarily photograph the moon or the limb side a lot, or the moon at all when it's quite full like this. However, interesting stuff is if you look at that edge, you can really see.
You see topography.
Yeah, which is pretty cool, and I'm gonna try and dial this focus in a little bit.
That's amazing.
If I can, but you can actually see topography on the bright limb if you've got a long enough focal length, and
that is insane.
It's tough to really get it dialed in because of the time of day and everything. But let's see. Let's try and get that. I might be going the wrong way with the focuser, or maybe we're at our limit here. But yeah, I mean, you can see those edges and those mountain ranges, or whatever they might be, on the.
Those are mountains. Those are proper mountains.
I think I had found my sweet spot, and that's about what it was. So, for focus. But yeah, like when we zoom in this far, the atmosphere is, you can think of it like water. When you're, or like a mirage, if you're going down a road and it's hot, and it's got those heat waves and everything, that's what we're seeing. Like we have to shoot through that. So it's really difficult. You've got to have an equalized temperature in order to get really good, long, focal length images like this. So, but yeah, I mean.
But now also being in the suburbs, I mean, like you are, haven't you got quite a bit of light pollution as well that you've got to deal with?
Light pollution for the moon and the planets doesn't matter at all. That's why I have been doing a lot of it lately, is because we've been stuck in the suburbs and haven't been able to get out into the desert areas and the dark areas. Because of that. And the thing is, like, I can shoot the moon anywhere. So if you were like, oh no, I want to go to the desert and, shoot planets in the moon, it's like, don't waste your time. Like, stay home and do that. Rather, go to the desert to get the Milky Way and to get nebula and galaxies and those things. So, and like you recently got a new phone that you can do long exposure. You can do Milky Way photography now with phones. And yes, it's not, pro camera quality, but the thing is, it shows the Milky Way and it does an amazing job now. Like we've got technology that can do a lot of cool stuff. So if you get out there, in the bush or in away from the cities, I like that view. I'm gonna shoot that view. I enjoy that view. You get away from the cities. That's when the dark skies matter, because you can see the Milky Way and you can see more stars than you'll ever see in your life. But you have to do it when there's no moon. So you got to do it when there's no moon around. The moon, the full moon, is just as bad or worse than a bright city. So that's the thing, is like, if the moon's out, it's a wasted trip to the desert. So make sure you go at the right times. So yeah, I just took a bunch of stuff. I've got 72. We've shot 80 gigabytes of images already, just the few that we've shot so far. So I'll move around the limb now and see. But we've got, like, notice these dark spots. Are those just, because you'd think that this is like a flat crater here, but then Would this be just like ejection stuff that happened and piled up, or?
No, those are probably individual impact craters that have been filled with basalt.
Okay.
Where are we?
Where
are we on the?
We are here, which is, let's see, we are here, you are there. Is this backwards? Why is this not? I'm looking at my atlas here. Oh, there we go. There we go, something's there. I can kind of tell you within. Okay, we got that bright thing with some stuff around. Franklin.
No, I think I've got it. Okay, so I think.
Oh no, that one. Yeah, I got it. That's Atlas. This one is Atlas.
Yes, and then next to it is Hercules.
Is it?
The one with the little red spot in it.
Yeah, that's her. Yeah, definitely.
The white spot.
Yeah.
The little white spot is Hercules.
Okay, so this is Hercules. Hercules, and then this is Atlas. So more Greek things here. So I'm gonna look up some information on Atlas actually.
Okay, so I'll see what they say about those little spots because they actually noted it on the map here.
Okay.
Dark mantling. So dome and mantle materials.
Ooh, Atlas is actually pretty cool looking. If you because it's not face on with Earth, it's actually going to be really difficult to get a cool image of Atlas. But it's a cool looking crater if you Google it. There's a lot of little channels inside the crater. Very, very cool. Let's see. This guy's 87 kilometers.
Oh wow!
You know, it's only 2 kilometers deep though. It's pretty shallow.
Interesting that the little white speck in Hercules next door is actually an impact crater within the crater.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot of those.
So what you're seeing there is actually just a reflection of the second crater, I would presume.
Yeah. So you're seeing the edge. So this here is the edge of the inner crater. Inner
impact.
Yeah, and there's one here. There's an impact on the rim, and there's another impact on the rim here. Can I move that over a little bit? Yeah, so there's rim impact craters that are of decent size also. And this one is 69 kilometers wide and 3 kilometers deep. I mean, it just looks so flat because it's face on. It's pretty boring, but let's see. It doesn't say the age right now, but I would guess because of the brightness and stuff of that one. And it's very well defined. This little crater. If you look at this face on.
I think that's more of a rather than being an actual material thing. I think that's probably just a reflection thing.
Okay.
You're seeing there.
Okay.
Because if you go into Google, like I've got an image of it here, and that little edge is right on the leading edge of where the sunlight comes in.
Okay.
So you're basically looking straight up against a wall, basically.
Okay. So yeah, it's like face on. That's like looking at the full moon area. Yeah. So yeah, this is that limb, that whole limb. That's just, it's boring until you get really close up and you can see that relief. I mean, you can even see it here. You know, you can.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know, that kind of stuff I love. And this view right here, this is one of my favorites. Just when you see that. Why is it? I'm trying to tell the telescope to stop. There we go. You know, it's just like, this is like this view coming in. Lunar lander style. I love it. I'm actually going to move it up so I can get Plato in there. I'm going to take this image as well. I wonder, I'd like this to chill out and go away. But let's see, how's my histogram? My histogram's pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this.
So for the budding moon photo taker, is there any specific times of the year that the atmosphere would be a little bit better for shooting? Or
yeah, the colder the better, and that just goes for all astrophotography. The colder it is, the clearer it is, and usually the cleaner it is in the air. So it's all about air quality. So dry, cold is dry. The drier it is, the more humid the air is, the more wavy it is. So basically, you want cold and dry, and that's why a lot, the biggest observatories and all of that are on the tops of mountains in like Chile and the driest places on Earth. Have the best images. I took a Milky Way image in Namibia. Near Sossusvlei, and it hadn't rained there in 3 years, and it's amazingly like detailed. There's so much stuff that you just cannot shoot in areas where there's a lot more moisture. So it's really air quality. So if it's cold and dry, that's your best time. Pollution actually adds quite a bit of badness too, but for moon stuff, steady, cold, all of that definitely helps. I'm wondering, I want to talk about, we were going to talk more about some of the basalt stuff, I think, but over here near Plato, there's actually these little tiny mountain ranges here. These are not impacts.
Yeah.
So what the heck is this? These little tiny mountain range thingies.
They're exactly that. They're mountain ranges.
So are they formed the same way that they're formed on Earth then? Or, were they, yeah. Is it just volcanic push?
So those are probably older than the surrounding mare, so the darker areas. And the mare itself would have just been filling in sort of the shallow area around those peaks, basically.
Okay.
So, and you're just seeing those peaks now standing up proud through the surrounding basalts. That's what I would presume.
Okay.
So they're like, what would you think of?
It's the tip of the Moonberg there.
Yeah. Just trying to think of where there'd be something like that on Earth that we could use as an analogy.
Any island, basically, with water around it, and that's where the...
Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, well, something like Hawaii, basically, where you've got a volcanic mound, and then you've got the sea around it. So, but in this instance, replace the water with the basalts.
Okay.
I can actually, I've got a really nice image here from one of my textbooks. We'll see if the guys online can actually see what I'm going to point at here. We'll try and do this through my telescope. Hang on, we'll get it there.
Okay, I can make you bigger when you're ready.
Okay, so there. I think that's right.
Okay.
So basically what you've got is you've got a number of different layers. I don't know if you can see it. You must shout at me.
Pull it back a little bit.
At the top, right?
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
Okay. So right on the top of the image, you'll see it says there's like a big fractured zone, which is obviously where all the impacts have occurred. And then you've got this little basin, and within the basin itself, that's where all the basalts are forming or have formed. So underneath that is all of this anorthosite material, the whiter material. So the basalts aren't super thick. If you compare it to what we find on Earth, we have massive continental flood basalts on Earth. There's the Columbia River basalts in the States. There's the Camp River basalts as well. I can't remember what that stands for, but they're on the East Coast.
Okay.
Then there's the Deccan traps in India. There's the ones in South Africa that have created the Drakensberg. And if you think we've got so many on Earth here that are still preserved, the amount of basalt is actually on the moon is actually equivalent to only the amount of material that has formed the Deccan traps in India. So we've got way more of this dark basaltic material on Earth than is on the moon. So there's not actually a hell of a lot. It's just this sort of thin veneer that's just coating the top of the surface.
Okay. Wow. That's crazy. Somebody asked on YouTube, I'm not sure if you'd be the guy to be able to answer this or not, but how big would the crater that made, or the meteor that made Tycho be? How big would something like that have to be? Have you any idea?
Not offhand, but we can have a fiddle and see if we can find something online. Give us a second.
Yeah. We've got, let's see, some other questions I'm going to look for here. Which are the youngest craters? Well, you know, if they can, like we said, there was a meteor impact last year that we all saw. I don't know if we can see it. Let's see. I know there's other questions here I'll look for. Oh, those were the ones that I saw. I saw there were more though. Oh no, those were the ones I looked at. Okay, cool. So that was cool. The rocky. Okay, so someone says Plato is my favorite. The rocky outcrops to the south are called Tenerife. Is that a geology term?
Tenerife? No, that's the.
No, not with an N. Well, I don't know. Maybe that's what. He means.
Tenerife? No, don't know.
Okay. I'm always actually. I like this area too. Whoops, not there. We're obviously gonna have to go look at the Apollo 11 landing zone as well because we have to. Oh, this is cool.
So the question about how big would Tycho's impactor have been? I can't find anything on Tycho itself, but if you compare it to, I mean, obviously the most famous one that we have on Earth in Chicxulub, that the bolide there was they reckon in between, and this is a wide range, but 11 to 81 kilometers wide, so 7 to 50 miles in diameter.
Wow.
So probably in the same region, I would presume.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah, to think, yeah. Whew. Crazy. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go hunt around and find the Apollo landing.
Well, whilst you hunt around for that, I'll hunt around for another beer.
Oh yeah! Okay, cool. I'm gonna get one too. Okay, you guys just look at the moon for a second. It's beer time. I even had one. I forgot to bring it over. Yeah, I mean, you can't beat that sound. Here we go. So this beer is very important. I'm going to tell you why. One, it's good. But two, I've only got 2 beers left. During lockdown, we're not allowed to buy beer. They're not allowed to sell beer during our lockdown here in South Africa. So I've only got 2 left. I've only got 2 beers left, Nigel.
Well, I'll thank our sponsors for our cycle racing, Superboc beer from Portugal. So we have a good couple of cases left of their beer. So big up to Superboc.
Yeah, so Nigel, other than being a rock doctor, he also, where the heck was that landing zone? Was it up here? Yeah. He is um, a really good mountain biker and big in the gravity scene in South Africa. And he organizes, in one of the provinces, he organizes all the racing for gravity. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And builds track.
Yes.
You build trail as well. Didn't you build the World Cup track?
Yeah. Yeah, we built the 2013 World Champs track for the event that we had here in South Africa.
Yeah. So what Nigel and I are both into the same style of mountain biking, the gravity stuff, so downhill and enduro. And little known fact is one of the best, or is he? Yeah, he's still considered the best. Nobody's beat his records yet. Minnaar, Greg Minnaar, South African, and he's widely known as the best mountain biker that basically ever live on gravity. But I think just ever in general. Anyway, and Nigel built the track that Greg won on in 2013, which is interesting. Here, so I've done this enough now, I know, without even having to look it up. If you make a triangle between the tip of this edge, this bright crater here, I'll move it up a little bit, and here, the Apollo 11 lunar landing zone is right about here. And the other night, it was very interesting because we were looking at this in infrared, and we were actually able to see there's 3 craters around here named after the guys that landed, or that were in the Apollo 11 mission, and they're named after them in very, very, very small craters, but we could actually see them because the sky conditions were good enough. I'm going to try and adjust the focus here. Seems like it's not really that great anymore. Yeah, not going to get much better. But there's 3 craters named after the guys in the mission. So, and no, we cannot see the lander. If I remember looking at it right, it was about 7 meters wide or something. So if you think about the fact that those bigger craters were 100 kilometers, the ability to see a 7-meter wide thing would be almost impossible. Well, it is impossible with this telescope, and even with the Hubble Space Telescope, can't see the lander or anything. So pretty interesting. And like I talked about the exposure, I'm dialing it back now again because see these brighter craters here, those are going to get blown out. So you really have to dial it back a lot more than you might think in order to get a decent exposure. So if the one thing you take away from this, as far as from an astrophotography standpoint of the moon, is dial back your exposure quite a bit, and you will, and then boost it in post, because otherwise you're going to lose a lot of detail that you would have had before. So I'm going to look around and see if there's any other interesting. Is there any other interesting geological features you want to talk about or look at, or?
Not that I can think of offhand, but just
whilst
you're talking about that, the exposure and all that, would you, if you're going to dial that back, would you then leave your imaging running longer to get a better quality image, or because wouldn't you lose quality by dialing back your exposure as well?
No, you actually, if you adjust the gain and lower the gain, you'll actually gain quality. you'll get better quality. Because the higher the gain on your camera, the noisier it is. So if you can make longer exposures or shorter exposures, longer exposures with less gain, you're going to get a better image. So that's, sorry, I'm trying to adjust this at the same time. There's another, you were talking about craters that were interesting. The Clavius crater is a really interesting one, because it's got a whole bunch inside it. If I can find it easily enough, it's right around somewhere. Let's see. I'm going the right way, I don't remember. Oh yeah, it's right there. That's why I couldn't. It's somewhat flat, but it's a cool looking crater, I think. It's right over there by Tycho. So check this thing out. It's huge. This thing is big. And it's got big craters inside it. So this is a semi-well-defined crater called Clavius. And it's got these nice, it's very interesting looking. I mean, it's almost like a fractal pattern. Look at how lined up in a curve these craters are inside it. So it's got the edge, it just blew out the edge of this thing. And it's got these other edge craters, this massive one here. But this is the Clavius crater, and it's about, if I remember right, 230 kilometers edge to edge. So it's always an interesting. I've got some nice photos of this one because it's very photogenic as well. But yeah, so you were talking about dialing the gain down. Basically, if you drop the gain, if you leave the exposure on your camera, like say the frames per second or the exposure the same, and drop the gain, you're just going to get a cleaner image in general. The other thing you can also do is you can drop both the gain and the exposure, and it's possible, depending on the camera, but depending on what your exposure is, you can get more frames per second as well. So the shorter the exposure, the more frames per second you can get. And that means more frames to choose from for making your image possibly more sharp frames. So that's why when I shoot like for example, these moon images, I'll do 5,000 frames. I'm going to move this and get just the edge on that side like that, and I'm going to shoot 5,000 frames of the edge. Like that, and just let it go, and that should give me a pretty good image. Because it will pick the best of the 5,000 and average them, and then I can sharpen that in post. So it's actually pretty cool. Let's see if we've got anything else. Doesn't look like we have any more questions on Twitter. So yeah, I can probably let you have your night back now. We've been doing this for an hour and a half. So.
Oh, before we go,
yeah.
You had a comment up on Instagram a while ago about one of the craters that you shot, and you were wondering what people thought it looked like.
Oh,
I think you were saying it's like a cigar.
Yeah. Yours was the best. That one is visible right now, and I forgot what it was called, and I'll look it up just now. It's right over here near Clavius. There it is. I think it's
that's it.
Yeah. It had a cool name, and I forgot what it was. So this thing.
Schiller.
Yeah, Schiller. That's what it was. Schiller. So anybody in the comments or whatever, just Twitter at me. I don't care. I'm curious to know what you think this thing is shaped like, because it's weird. It's irregularly shaped, and I googled it that night, and looked at it as we were looking at this thing. And it's not odd shaped just because of the angle, because it's on the kind of the edge of the moon there.
It's properly elongated.
It's
even
actually,
in the map.
yeah, it's actually shaped strangely. So I don't know how that is formed. How would something like, is that, I mean,
maybe an oblique impact.
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, huge though, a big one. You know, like a glancing
But
blow.
if something comes in really, really shallow and you get a very big glancing blow, that might cause something like that.
It's crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna look up Schiller crater again, because that's an interesting one.
So they have it as one of the really older craters. So Precambrian in age. So that means it's 3,100 or so million years old, or Preimbrian age.
Okay.
But they have it as irregular crater materials.
So yeah, they say it appears to be a fusion of two or more craters and bears a superficial, resemblance to a footprint. Okay, I suppose I could see a footprint. There's two.
It looks like.
Yeah, you said it looked like Mr. Hanky.
If you just put a hat on that, that's Mr. Hanky. Yeah.
And you can actually see this too. I was gonna say there's some cool mountain ranges actually inside Schiller.
In the center of it, yeah.
Yeah, which you can see, and they're very interesting because they're just so, it's like, so there's that center ejecta or something like that right in the middle that blows up, and you can see them on this image, which is good. So yeah, there's that. What else? It's 4 kilometers deep. Yeah, wow. I love this one. Terraced. It's terracing. That's what the stepping is called.
That's it.
Yeah.
But if you look at that from the sort of lower right to the top left of the image, as you've got it there, it might just be the shadow of the sun on the crater rim. But as you go towards the sort of top left, it looks like it actually gets deeper.
It does.
You go from bottom right to top left. It looks like it gets deeper as you're going into it.
Yeah, I think that's just shadow, because it almost on the face-on image that's on Wikipedia from the Lunar orbiter that took a face-on image of it. It's very elongated. It's very much so, and it. It actually looks like, so the walls start coming down much slower here than they do on the edge. So it might look like it's getting deeper, but it's almost looks like it might be getting shallower. But this is cool too. Interesting. There's a crater here, but there's like another crater right next to it, and it forms like what could be like a gorge or something like that. That connects these here. So, yeah. I don't know if Mr. Hanky is having a poo here or what, but that's that's funny. This is cool though. I haven't seen the inside of that like that. That's amazing. And this is live. So I call this live stream stuff when I do it, jokingly, I call it the telescope time machine. Just because the stuff that we're seeing, I mean, we're looking back in time at these craters and everything, and that's cool. But specifically, the light reflected that we're seeing right now from the moon is 1.3 seconds in the past. So when you look, in general, everything you see is in the past by, tiny bits of time. But when you get these astronomical distances, we're actually looking, because of the speed of light, and light actually moves pretty slow when you talk about the actual size of the universe and space and everything. And what we're seeing on the moon here is about 1.3 seconds ago. So the light that reflected off the sun, reflected off the moon from the sun and is hitting our eyes, through my telescope, is 1.3 seconds in the past. So it's kind of interesting to see that. And when you see the planets even further away, like if you see, I've got an image of Saturn and the moon next to each other, and the thing is with those, Saturn is 1.3 hours away and the moon is 1.3 seconds away, but they're in the same frame, so you're actually seeing two different points in time at the same time, but it's not the same time. So like it's kind of mind-blowing if you try and make your brain really think about it. So I love that. That's what I love about this stuff is you know, we're looking at these things that are just, I don't know. I think this space and the photography that we can do now is just really, really inspirational. I don't know. It makes you think about stuff you never would have thought about before. So.
Well, you think about all of those the galaxy images that guys are able to take now, and some of those galaxies are 10 million light years away.
Yeah.
So you're looking at light that was emitted 10 million years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, and the closest galaxy to ours from our galaxy, the Milky Way, is the Andromeda galaxy. Well, that's a normal galaxy, and that is 2.5 million light years away. So, you know, I've taken images of the Andromeda galaxy, and the thing is, you're looking at that. It's 2.5 million years ago. You know, that's right around the time, you know, the first humans started, like, I don't know, becoming what we are today, and or not even that. So it's just crazy to think about what we're seeing when we look up at the night sky and look up at space. I'm gonna do an image of this because it's one of my favorites, and I like this whole area right here. It's a different angle from what it was last time in the time machine. Yeah. I mean, really, like, astrophotography and all of that it is what you make it, and, like, it doesn't matter how good or bad your images are. I mean, you just started, and what you've taken is, like, basically a lot of the same stuff as what I took when I started, you know? It's like, you got this dot on the screen, and you're excited because it's a planet, you know, or because it's a star, and that's awesome because, like, people look at Hubble and they get mad, or they look at some of the stuff that guys that have been shooting for forever, for years and years and years, and they get mad because they're not able to shoot, you know, that right away. And the thing is, that's not the important part. You know, the important part is that those images are yours, and that you've been, you know, you took it yourself. So it's a journey that you kind of start now. And you're starting that, and anybody watching this can start. So just
and I mean, for anyone who is watching who's new to it, it's like it's really something that you don't need to have all of the fancy gear like Corey's got on the screen there. I mean, I picked up a secondhand scope for 3,000 Rand. So what's that? That's
$200. About?
Yeah, probably $200. And I got a bracket for my cell phone, and
that's it.
Been taking stuff with my phone, and that's all you need. And then you get some of the free software online, and you can sit and fiddle.
Yeah, most of the astrophotography software, the basic stuff is free. You don't have to buy software, because most of it. I mean, this hobby is a very DIY thing. A lot of people. Make their own stuff. You know, we buy stuff, but the software is written by people who there was no software that did what they wanted, and so they wrote it. That's basically where a lot of it came from. So, it's pretty cool stuff. So I think we can probably wrap it up, but thank you for the insights and stuff tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been great. It's been good fun.
It's always good to know like actually what's going on instead of me just going around the moon trying to pronounce craters and saying, "Oh, look at this cool thing! It's shaped like a turd." You know, it's like, well, no, actually, what is this? No, that's cool. I like to have it. So thanks again, Nigel, and all the best to you. And thanks everybody for watching. So you can, if you ever come to South Africa, go to KwaZulu-Natal and go mountain biking with Nigel, and he'll talk to you about rocks at the same time. So. Cool. Thank you, Nigel.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Corey. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye.
Cheers, guys.